Hello, hello. Welcome to A Novel Console, your weekly podcast where we talk about books, games, food, and stuff that caught our attention during the week. My name is Chris, and with me is Thrak, not my beautiful co-host and wife.
Just the beautiful co-host part, not the wife part.
Not the wife part. My wife decided that we weren't going to record this week because tomorrow, the 30th, is our 3-year wedding anniversary, so we just wanted to take the week off.
Aw, isn't that cute?
Yeah, probably going to take next week off too as well, so it's going to be just us relaxing and shit because we work too much. So, how are you doing, man?
I'm hanging in there, I guess. I know you don't give a shit about sports, but the Vikings won today. But the quarterback went down with potentially a torn Achilles, so he might be out for the season.
Oh,
yeah, and
that's rough.
Like they have won the last 3 of their 4. The momentum was on their side. Like they started 0-3 and now they're 4-4. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I'm gonna maintain. I'm gonna believe in my Vikings. All right. So I'm gonna hang in there. But other than that, things are good. I've been playing Control, and I highly recommend everyone play it. It's surprising to me how many people don't like it. In a way, I can see why.
That's weird.
Well,
I was playing it a certain way when I started it because you have the handgun.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that you can shoot the handgun as fast as you can pull the trigger.
Oh yeah.
So I was playing it in a very tactical way, which for me worked. I really enjoyed playing it that way. But once I figured out that you could fire or shoot as you can pull the trigger, like that changed the whole thing for me, and I started having a lot more fun then.
Yeah. Like you definitely have to kind of be on your toes while you're playing it, because I tend to say I'll levitate in the air and then I'll slam down, pop a couple shots off, dash away, maybe force push a guy in the chest, and it can be really exciting when you're kind of in the thick of things. But
Right.
There are definitely some issues with it, but I gotta say personally, it's probably one of the best games I've played this year. So.
It's a fantastic game.
Yeah.
It was my first Remedy game.
It's not my first.
And I absolutely loved it. And I just bought it on Steam Deck last night for $10. So I think I'm going to give it another playthrough because Alan Wake came out. Alan Wake 2 came out on Friday.
Yeah. Great reviews.
I downloaded. Oh yeah, the reviews were surprising me because they were 10s and 9s everywhere.
Yeah, I think PS5's Metacritic is an 88 and the PC version's at a 92. So they even out to about a 90, which is really good. Because Control didn't get that. Control's reviews weren't that good in comparison.
Not that I remember.
I think it got mid-80s.
I downloaded the original Alan Wake on PlayStation. I downloaded Alan Wake 2, so I want to make my way through the original Alan Wake because Burger Champ said that it was about 10 hours long.
Yeah, it's a quick play.
And then I want to hop in to Control, maybe do the DLC, and then just go into Alan Wake 2 because there's a character from Control that's in Alan Wake 2, and I kind of want to refresh my memory of what happened in Control.
Yeah.
And maybe get to take out that one boss fight that I couldn't beat the first time that I played it. So
yeah, which boss fight was that in Control?
It's a post game boss fight. Is
it Former?
I think. What?
Is it Former? Like the giant slug thing that you fight?
No.
Okay.
No. So those annoying flying enemies that have they're flying on their back and their head is dangling down?
Yes. Yes, I do.
It's one of those.
Okay.
It's a boss fight that's one of those. Yeah, and it's super fucking annoying. And I couldn't beat it the first time, so I just... It's I beat the game. I'm not going to continue playing.
Yeah, because with Former, I remember... Actually, I beat the second version of Former, yesterday. And I found the second version easier because you're on a much smaller, playing field, I guess, when Former... And he shows up much quicker. So I'm not just sitting there waiting for him to show up. He just shows up and just starts going apeshit. So it made the boss fight much quicker, which I actually appreciated a lot more. But yeah, at this point, I've beaten the main story. I've cleaned up all the side quests I wanted to do. I didn't bother with any the record jukebox tokens because I tried one of them and I didn't like it. I had a hard time beating that one boss that's Jesse backwards, so I just was like, eh.
Isesh.
Isesh, yeah.
I didn't have any issues with her. I actually
I keep
found that
struggling
boss
with
fight
her.
to be pretty easy.
See, because like I found a corner that I tried to hide in and just like pop shots off, but she would just pop shots off quicker and just fuck me up. So, oh well. I think all you get for that boss fight is like a costume. So
I think so.
it's not fucking worth
Yeah.
it. So I'm working through the Foundation DLC, which is okay. It's good. It's there's a couple interesting bits as far as like lore and story is concerned, but gameplay is just more of the same. And then the second DLC, I forget what it's called. Everyone just calls it the Alan Wake DLC that connects the two. So
The
AWE.
what was
Aw.
AWE? Yeah.
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 It's cool because when you get to it, you go into like the main elevator in Central Executive and you see like FMV of the guy who plays Alan Wake like typing at his like typewriter, right? It does the control thing where it does like the two like crossfades or whatever.
Right.
And so if you sit in the elevator and watch him type and he's like saying stuff, it will initiate the DLC. So it's pretty interesting.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I love Remedy. Like the only games from them I haven't played are Death Rally, like they're like Twisted Metal kind of clone from back in the day. And let's see, Alan Wake's American Nightmare I still haven't played. But
Isn't that the DLC for Alan Wake?
no. It's its own little
No?
separate thing they released a couple years later. It's like a spin-off. I think it's canon, but it's like a short 3-4 hour game that's on 360 and Windows only. So,
I know that it's on the remastered edition.
oh, did they put it in there?
Yeah, because
Oh,
I know
well,
that
that's
when I
good.
downloaded the game, it told me that it was downloading that as well with the whole file.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. That's awesome they added that in there.
Yeah.
So that outside of that, like I've played original Alan Wake, loved it. Quantum Break, I played that earlier this year actually, and I quite enjoyed that as well. And yeah, Control is fantastic. One of my favorite games of the year. So hopefully I'll get to Alan Wake 2 next year. Next year seems about right, just because, I got a couple other games I need to clean up, and then since you and Berger talked about Dead Space so positively, you had me download it. So now I want to play through it because
Remake?
yeah, the
remake's available
yeah,
now.
the remake. Because I played original Dead Space, I think back in the day when it came out. Like I think I rented it and really enjoyed it. But when you rent games back then, you just for me, I didn't necessarily think about, oh, I need to go buy this properly afterwards. I just wasn't thinking about it in that way.
Right.
And then when I got my Xbox One, I bought original Dead Space. I think it was like $3-4, and this was before I even had Game Pass. And played it a little bit again, and it was like, yeah, it's just as good as I remembered. But then when they were doing the remake, I'm like, well, maybe I'll wait for that. And people seem really high on it, so I will play
It's
it.
great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's such a fun game.
Oh yeah.
And it fits the season.
Does it?
'Cause,
How is the does it control about the same as the original?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same controls and everything.
Because I remember at the time, some people were kind of down on the original Dead Space, or at least some people were just like, it's just Resident Evil 4 in space, like as sort of a knock against it. And
I mean, it kind of is,
but that's not a bad thing,
right?
is it?
I mean, if Resident Evil was a bad game, then
Yeah, especially Resident Evil 4, which is one of the best games ever
Right.
made. So, but yeah, hopefully I will.
speaking of,
Oh yeah,
we
shit.
we have to talk about Resident Evil 5.
Oh God, I've spent the last few days ever since we finished it trying to think of something interesting to say about this game, and there's not much I can think of. There's really
Well,
not.
we got an hour, so why don't we just burn through Resident Evil real quick and then talk bullshit?
Well, let's do let's do the normal like spiel, like when it came out and blah blah blah.
Right. Let me pull that up because got you. All right. So here we go. Resident Evil 5 is a 2009 third-person shooter video game developed and published by Capcom. It is a major installment in the Resident Evil series and was announced in 2005, the same year its predecessor, Resident Evil 4, was released. Resident Evil 5 was released for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 consoles in March 2009 and for Windows in September 2009. It's re-released for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in June 2016. Why is that written that way? Anyways, the plot involves an investigation of a terrorist threat by Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, or BSAA, agents Chris Redfield and Sheva Alomar on Kijuju, a fictional region of West Africa. Chris learns that he must confront his past in the form of an old enemy, Albert Wesker, and his former partner, Jill Valentine. So it is a co-op Resident Evil game.
Where's Claire?
We played Claire. She's not here at all.
Does she die? In Code Veronica or something?
No.
Okay.
No, because I think she got relegated to non-canon heroine because she is in the what's it called, Revelations 2.
Okay, because I think if I remember correctly, Code Veronica follows her after Resident Evil 2 because she's still looking for her brother. Yeah. And she does find Chris, and then potentially problematic shit happens.
So we played the Xbox One version.
Yes.
On our Xbox Series X's.
Yes.
And I just want to get this out of the way, starting the game. This is what television producers think a co-op video game is. Because there's a lot of don't go there, here, take this item, or watch out for that monster, or, it is what co-op is supposed to be. It's a lot of constant talking back and forth with each other, trying to get through it. Otherwise, you die. And we did die a lot.
So, do you have a history with this game? Because
I do.
I have a tiny history with it.
So, I played this game when it came out. I beat it on Xbox 360. And then the Gold Edition came out for PS3, which was the base game plus the 2 DLCs that they made for this game, plus everything else that they added on for Mercenaries. And I played that a ton on PS3. I think I beat it a couple of times with some friends. I did play with a cousin of mine, and we beat it. So I put a lot of time into this game. And revisiting it now, it's way better with friends than by yourself. It's I don't want to play this game by myself ever again.
I'll take your word for it, because my weird history with this, I remember when it was announced, it was like the first trailer was a big deal, and it caused a lot of controversy at the time because the trailer was mainly Chris just mowing down a bunch of black zombies basically in Africa.
Yep.
But I don't think they had established it was Africa yet, or maybe they did. But I just remember it was a big deal, and so Capcom had to go back in and add a bunch of white and brown zombies to sort of even it out, to make it better, I guess. So it's more like you're in apartheid South Africa or something. But yeah, it getting announced was a big deal, but then when it released, from my memory, it didn't make as much of a splash as, say, Resident Evil 4 did.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, and funnily enough, a friend of my sister's at the time was holding, for some reason, she was holding a garage sale, maybe a year or two after, and she had the strategy guide for the game. And they were just like, Thrak likes games. How about you give him this? So I got it. And I had the strategy guide for years, without ever having the game. So I read through that a couple times, and it was neat. There was some neat art in there. But I got Resident Evil 5 for my Switch, I think. Had to be a couple years ago.
On a sale.
Yeah, on a sale a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And played through the first 1-2 chapters solo. And I remember thinking, this is going to be rough. And then I didn't play it again until you were essentially like, hey, let's do Resident Evil 5 after Gears. I'm just like, well, because you brought it up, and I was like, oh, maybe we should do Halo or whatever. But then one day you're just like, dude, it's $8. Buy it right now. Just fucking buy it. I'm like, okay.
It was $7.
Yeah. So you made me buy it, and then we played through it. But now that we have the playthrough behind us a little bit, I gotta say it was fine. It was fine.
I think I would have enjoyed this game a whole lot more if the stages didn't feel like an idea of a bunch of stages just thrown together, because it did not seem like a cohesive map or location or whatever. It just feel like, oh, you're starting in the village and then you're going into a base, but it's not really a base because it's part of the village, but the village is attached to the swamp, and in the swamp you're going to fight natives, but not natives because there's also a base, and in that base there's also more village people, but swamp people are there too, but there's also bioweapons, and there's also like clean rooms, but it's also in a boat. It just felt like they had to hit every single like cliche thing, and just like we're throwing shit constantly nonstop.
It feels like
it didn't make sense.
It feels like it's trying to follow the same blueprint that Resident Evil 4 established, like starting off in the village, and then there's the swamp lake section, and then you go to like a factory, and things just kind of constantly grow until like the very end. It feels for a game that had approximately 3-4 years of development, it feels undercooked. Because I agree with you on the lack of cohesion, because every time you pass like a specific stage, right, the game just hard cuts. And then it's like, oh, organize your inventory, sell off your treasure, blah, 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 blah. And then it hits you back in. It's like a level system, essentially, like an old school like level system. Right. But with Resident Evil 4, it didn't really do that. Like there were chapters.
It didn't feel like that.
No, I mean, there were ending.
Didn't feel like that.
Yeah, because there were, in the original Resident Evil 4, when the chapters would end, there'd be like a big cutscene or whatever, but it would put you like, it would either put you right where you were, or would have a little cutscene establishing you going to the next area, and then you're off and running. And
you could see, and like the thing is, Resident Evil 4 made it so that, let's say after you fight El Lago, you're across the lake so you can see where you came from and where you fought the fish. Or if you're going to Salazar's castle, you can see the castle, even though once the cutscene breaks, you're inside of the castle already. There was a cohesion. Here it just feels like a group of stages just thrown, and you are just playing through them.
Yeah, and it's so weird. Like, do you think they ended up doing that because, like, say Resident Evil 4 was such a big success for them that maybe they didn't have to put in the same amount of effort, do you think? Do you think they phoned it in a little bit? Because if I remember correctly, Shinji Mikami is in the credits for this game.
Right.
But he's not directing. He's not at the helm like he was with 4. I forget who directed this one. Let me check. 2 guys, Yasuhiro Anpo and Kenichi Udaya. I probably pronounced those really wrong, and they don't have Wikipedia articles, so maybe that tells you something. But it just feels like, if anything, it kind of fits into that weird mold Capcom was in. Because if you think about it, when Capcom hit the 360 era, they started to kind of struggle a bit. I mean, yeah, they had Dead Rising, which was pretty solid. The Lost Planet games, which, if I remember, the first one made a bit of a splash, but the sequels kind of tapered off.
Yeah.
And I remember I played Lost Planet at the time and really liked it, but I haven't played that game since like 2006. And then you had like, the Umbrella Chronicles for Wii.
Those were the Umbrella Chronicles. I thought you meant the other Umbrella, Operation Raccoon City. That game was awful.
Yeah, that one was rough. I think Dark Void was around this time, that kind of infamous Capcom game. The Bionic Commando reboots, which didn't really pan out. Like, Capcom was in a weird spot in this time. In fact, if I remember correctly, they were losing money during the 360 era, and I think were almost bought out in like the early 2010s, I think. But a little series called Monster Hunter started to creep up and kind of saved them.
Right.
So, if anything, Resident Evil 5 may be like the prime example of Capcom, and in a sense, the Japanese devs in general not keeping up with the HD era. Because I remember during
I know that developers didn't want to work on the PS3 because it was such a hard console to develop for.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that also affected the 360 when they had to do cross-platform games like Resident Evil 5 and 6 and Dark Void and all those games that they multi-released on both consoles.
Well, I think what they used to do was they would make the game for the 360 because it was the easier system to work on, and then would port it to PS3 from there. But as the years went on, because this was, I think, 2009, so by this point, devs were starting to figure out how the PS3 worked. Because by the end of the generation, PS3 ports were pretty solid. So, but there's that whole narrative that's like during this time, like Japanese game development was kind of falling behind, and Western game development was picking up like crazy. And I vaguely remember that because during the 360 era, it was more or less the it was less about like the Capcoms and the Konamis and the Namcos, and it was becoming more about the BioWares and the Bethesdas. Yeah, like they were really starting to be like the big heavy hitters. Even like Bungie and Epic with Halo and Gears. So
Epic had such a solid fucking generation there with Gears of War and Bulletstorm and all those games that they fucking released.
Oh yeah, they were riding the high for quite a long time, but then Fortnite hit, and now they're kind of, it's weird, like
they don't
how
care. They don't care anymore.
Well, yeah, like I think somebody described Tim Sweeney as a video gaming stepdad, and it's so perfect because he is trying so hard to make everybody like him, but people just don't like him. He's just like, why won't you love me? I'm giving you games for free. And then you see what he's doing at Epic, where it's like they're making all this money and they're just trying to put all this money into these weird experimental projects that are at the helm of Tim. They fail. And what does he do? He just fires a bunch of people and doesn't take like a pay cut or anything, which is just American corporatism bullshit, you know? So, but yeah, like they were riding high at this point, and yeah, it's just, I don't know what was going on with Capcom at this point, Like I think there was a rumor at the time that Microsoft was going to buy them out, but thankfully that didn't happen.
I mean, there's always a rumor that Microsoft is going to buy somebody out. Like right now, they're saying, "Oh, Microsoft is going to buy Ubisoft."
the one I keep hearing is Sega, but I feel like that rumor's been is 20 years old at this point. Like I don't see it.
I don't think Sega would sell unless they were like drowning, where none of their games are selling and they're all fucking bombs.
Like but
right now they're riding on Yakuza and everybody buys Sonic when it comes out, even if it's bad. So I don't think Sega's ever gonna sell.
Like if Sega didn't sell in like the early 2000s when they were drowning, like I don't see them doing it now. Like I don't see any of like these Japanese devs selling because they all have good working relationships with the big three console manufacturers, and they're growing their PC market as well. And Sega has a really good PC market with like Creative Assembly. So why would they? There's no real benefit to it. But see, this is how much I have to say about RE5 because I'm not talking about RE5. It's I don't know. Like it's so weird that this is like the best-selling game in the series, like by a wide margin.
I think there's a couple of reasons, because this game has been ported as much, if not more than Resident Evil 4.
Yeah,
because it got at least 2 releases on Xbox 360 and PS3 when it came out.
Oh, because of the gold edition, yeah.
Right, and then it came out on PS3. Yeah, no. Gold edition, right. And then when Resident Evil 6 came out, they did a bundle that was $80 that had Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 Gold edition.
Mm-hmm.
So with $80, you got all of those games, which I'm sure that sold like crazy because I remember buying that bundle. Then it came out on Xbox One, on PS4, on Switch. Now it's available to play on PS5, on the Series X and S versions. I don't doubt that this game has sold more than 4, and it's just because it's been so easily available to purchase. And every time it comes out, it's like $20. I mean, who's not going to spend $20 on a Resident Evil game on a new console?
So real quick, Resident Evil 5, as of December 2022, has sold 13.5 million units. By contrast, the original Resident Evil 4, as of December 2022, has sold 12.3 million. So it's close. Okay. It's closer than I thought.
Yeah.
So... But I think the heavier sales for RE5 probably has to do with the big success that Resident Evil 4 was, and people, naturally getting hype for the next game. Like, say, everyone was hyped for Pikmin 4 because Pikmin 3 was so good, you know what I mean? Or Tears of the Kingdom because of Breath of the Wild, like that kind of thing. And
I'm sure it also, a lot of it had to do with, it's Resident Evil 5, it's more... survival horror, but co-op, and in Africa, so we have somebody that can help us the entire time fight off these monsters, and it's still going to be survival horror, which they did away with the whole survival part because it's still technically a horror game.
Yeah,
a bunch of like heads exploding and monsters and all that shit.
Yeah, this is Resident Evil going further into just being like a horror action game. Like, the survival aspect feels very, like, just minimal, if there at all. Like, it's not Resident Evil 6, where Resident Evil 6 is just it's not even a horror game anymore. It's just an action game.
Yeah.
So they still try to throw in the horror ideas.
We only ran out of bullets once, and it was at the end of the game
because we didn't know what the fuck we were doing.
We had like a full clip in your machine gun, like 2 shotgun shells, and like 20 handgun bullets between the two of us. We beat the game somehow.
What's funny is I mentioned that to a friend of mine, and he said when he co-opted with his friend back in the day, they ran out of bullets and then just went up to Wesker and just knifed him. And they had him weak enough to that killed him. They knifed Wesker to death, which is awesome. But
oh man,
but yeah, like
it took us a while to figure out Wesker. And I think every single time we fought Wesker, we had to stop and do a Wikipedia search to figure out how to beat his ass.
Yeah. But, well, I think it was you just discovered, like, if I just hop on his back, it kind of rips the chest open so you can get better shots off
right.
of him. But you got to punch the boulders. How'd that feel?
Yep.
Does that feel good?
I can certainly say that I'm a boulder punching son of a bitch. Or what I don't remember what the guy calls Chris. I think it was a boulder punching motherfucker or something like that.
Is that in the village? Yeah.
Yeah,
Still haven't played Village.
It's so much fun. It's so good. It's Resident Evil 4 all over again.
It's on the list, but I have to play through some of the others. But yeah, like it's weird that like I feel the perception of RE5 has changed because I think people were down on it for a long time. But then after say like 6 and then the rise of kind of the memes around RE5, people tend to be a bit nicer to it and they're like, "Oh, it's fine." And I think at the end of the day, it is fine. And if I had done it single player, I probably would have hated it. But, being the AI teammate to you, it made it enjoyable for the most part, despite Shiva being a bit of a handicap to the second player for kind of
left-handed.
Yeah, they make her left-handed for no real reason at all, just to be different. And this was, before you could swap, which I like now with games.
Right.
When you aim, I think it's usually if you click the right stick, you can toggle, which is nice. But, we're kind of not there with optimization yet. But
no. I think Resident Evil 5 is the middle child, the ugly middle child, because 6 is the one everybody hates.
Yeah,
then 4 is like the one everybody loves. And then 5, everybody's like, it exists.
It's almost like the ugly duckling. Like it didn't have a good start, but as it's gone on, I think people have become kinder to it and nicer to 6. I don't think 6 will ever get that kind of resurrection. No. Unless you're Jala, I don't see anybody really enjoying this game. So
unless you're Jala Chan, the Sherpa of Resident Evil 6.
Yeah, I don't know why she's played that game so much, but props to her for dealing with it.
She loves it.
She's
like, I can't wait to take Dave Jackson on my next expedition to Resident Evil 6. Like, why?
I mean,
why would you both do that?
Well, she has an open invitation to, anybody. I think I even asked her once, and she's like, yeah, if you want, we could try it. I'd be like, I wouldn't care. But I don't know if that'll ever happen. Me and her will probably do Shining Force 3 instead, which would be much more exciting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that would be way better than Resident Evil 6.
Oh, God,
so,
yes.
I feel like the weapon selection in the game is standard. It's pretty standard Resident Evil stuff. You got
I feel like
3 different handguns, 3 different shotguns, 3 different sniper rifles, 3 different machine guns, and they all have like their unique stuff that for you to play around with, because you found the MP5 and you pretty much played the entire game with it.
Yeah, and it's weird. I feel like the gun variety in Resident Evil 4 is a lot better, but I think the guns in this game are much more like effective. Because you start out when I found like the SMG for the MP5, I kind of coasted with that for a good chunk of the game until I got the AK-47, and then I got that, and that was essentially my main gun, swapping between that and the pistol. When I think you just had like your pistol, shotgun, and sniper rifle.
Yep.
Which, it kind of coasted us, which was nice that it was easy to find the few weapons that you could just sit with and kind of go for it. But I do miss an RE4, like, experimenting with all those various handguns and magnums and all this weird shit that you could find, to kind of see what works and what doesn't,
The guns in this game the handguns pretty much feel like handgun. Stronger handgun.
It feels like the
stronger
one from
handgun
4.
that hits 2 enemies at once. That's it.
Yeah, it feels like the handgun from 4, which was fine. And it amazed me how some people are always like, when I tell them, "Oh, I keep the standard handgun the entire game," people are like, "You don't ever like get rid of it for the blacktail or whatever?" I'm like, "No, I just always kept it because it worked for me." And having increase the critical headshot rate always was a big help, especially near the end of the game, because then I could just one-shot people in the head like crazy. But,
See, once I got the Red 9, that's it. I'll just carry the Red 9 the entire game.
But that's what I like about 4, is that I think everybody approaches the weapon loadouts a little differently. To where some people are like, oh, I'll use these guns, or I'll swap these. Like, some people keep the semi-auto sniper the whole game. And then some other people swap it out for the semi-auto, even though it takes a lot more space. There's a lot of interesting strategy there. But with RE5, that strategy doesn't feel the same. It just feels more like just have enough ammo to blast everything, which is fun in its own right. Like, I can't say we didn't have a fun time with the game. We did, especially when I got more accustomed to it, because I think I feel like the first round I was dog shit.
True. I feel like that statement rings true specifically when we get to the boat. And it's just nonstop enemies coming at you. And then we're both using whatever we have that works best against them. So I'm blasting them with the shotgun and you're mowing them down with the machine gun.
Yes.
Or like when those crab monsters come out, I would blow their tail off so the mouth would open, and then you would unload your machine gun into their mouth to take them down.
Yeah,
I liked that a lot. That worked very well for me.
We got into a rhythm, and that's definitely what makes the game work. Is when you have the two players, kind of syncing together and figuring out, when to shoot. Like, oh, you shoot him this way, I'll shoot him this way, and then Josh will say another pipe, get down, and then we get down.
Not a pipe.
I gotta say, I like Josh quite a bit.
Josh was great.
He's probably my favorite character in the game, actually. Like, he's a loyal, dedicated soldier. I don't think he knows quite what's going on, but he's efficient and does what he needs to do, and he's not annoying or anything. He's a good character.
Right.
I like him. In fact,
great. Josh was great.
Honestly, I don't hate any of the characters in this game. Not really, but most of them don't have enough character to hate. Like, Chris and Shiva are just kind of there. They're not like Leon, where I keep comparing this game to 4, but it's just how I am. Where like Leon,
I mean, it's bound to happen.
Yeah, and Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games of all time. And you have Leon, who is they used 2, his character in 2, as like a good foundation for him in 4. But with 4, they let him be more confident and kind of go out there a little bit more in the character stuff. And he's memorable for that, Like, I know his hairstyle was very influential in 2005. And
that's fucking Nick Carter ass looking motherfucker.
Oh yeah, people loved it. Like, I know people who were like, Leon is, they loved the design of the character and everything, and and he stuck with us, because he was a very fun character. So I remember in 6 when they brought him back, a lot of us got excited, but it didn't really work out.
Right.
But with Chris, there's not a lot there with him as far as a character. Like, he's a big hulking dude. That's like kind of all he is.
I feel like there's two personalities for Chris, right? There's the big, I'm going to kill all the bioweapons, I'm the head of the BSAA Chris from Resident Evil Village. And then there's the I need to find Jill now from Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil Revelations, because that's his entire character in Revelations, just finding Jill in the fucking boat.
I mean, that's essentially this whole game's plot, is him finding Jill.
Right.
And then him kind of getting caught in the whole Wesker plan, essentially.
Right.
Which, did they intend for this game to be like the end of the series? Because it feels very like definitive end.
It does. I wonder if they did, because it feels like Wesker dies at the end.
Yeah.
Which I'm still not convinced that he's dead.
Spoilers. This game's from 2009. It's fine.
This game, if you play Resident Evil 5 for the story, you're kind of missing the point, because the story in this game is not it.
The story just kind of exists. Even though I do like Wesker's character in this game, and it feels like the earlier Resident Evils, he's kind of like holding in his like diabolical villain, and here it's just all out. It's like, there you are. And, just like this he puts on this very weird accent and talks about releasing Ouroboros into the atmosphere and turning everybody into zombies, and him being the ruler of them or something. Like, it is batshit.
All of the monsters and shit in this game are like a variation of Las Plagas from Resident Evil 4.
Yeah. Yeah, but just not as interesting.
That's kind of cool, but yeah, right? Because you're calling him Ouroboros now, and it's just like fucking worms. Like, these people have worms.
Yeah, and in 4, like, yeah, Sadler was at the top, but you also had Salazar, Mendez. You had all these other little characters to kind of like work your way up. Whereas in 5, there isn't any. It's just you're just going for Wesker.
I mean, you have that annoying dude that turns into a fish and dies.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
about
him.
Excella, who turns into a blob and dies.
Yeah. It's just, yeah. This is just co-op Resident Evil 4, but not as interesting.
Right.
That's really the best way to describe it.
To be honest, I don't hate it. I
didn't hate it either.
Resident Evil 4.
I know at the end of our
it's fun.
At the end of our first playthrough, I fucking hated it because I was dog shit at it. In fact, speaking of, shout out to Carradine, because there was a couple times we were playing this, and Chris would say something to me, and then Carradine would say in the background, "You're being too mean to him. Stop it." So thank you, Carradine. Thank you for going to bat for me. I appreciate it.
Like, the one that made me laugh the hardest was something happened and I died. And I was like, "You let me die, you fucking bastard." And she came into the room.
She's like, "Don't call him a bastard."
He's like, "Don't talk to him like that." And you're like, when I screamed at you and I called you a fucking bastard, you're just dying laughing. And Karen
because I fucked up. Yeah, I fucked
and you
up.
start
I'll admit
laughing even harder.
Because it was nice of her to do that. So thank you, Carradine. She's a sweetheart. She is. She doesn't understand the video game chat stuff, So bless her heart.
No,
bless her sweetheart.
No. And it was more like me yelling at you to get back from things, because you've never played the game that much before, so you didn't know what was a one-hit kill.
Well,
I was like, "Get the fuck away from it! You're gonna die."
And that really brings up like my main issue with the game is they fucked with the controls and compared to say 4, because I'm so used to how Resident Evil 4 plays, right? And then in 5, I mean, it kind of plays like 4, but it does kind of the fucking Gears of War thing where A is everything. And at first that threw me for a loop way more than like the lefty aiming, which I eventually got used to. I knew I would. But I think when I changed my control, I think it was to type D. That kind of, for some reason, that was like more closer to RE4, how it moved. So I was able to be fine with it then. You know, I think it was I gave up like camera control, but it was fine. So, but yeah, but by the end,
camera control with those tank controls, the camera control is pretty much useless.
Yeah. So by the end of the game, I was staying pretty, close to you as far as like skill level was concerned. So I knew I would. I just had to get used to it. But it's just as Shiva, or whatever, however you pronounce it. It's, I don't know. It just, her character, the way they create her for like a second character to play just feels completely ass backwards, Yeah,
it's weird that they just made her a left-handed character.
Yeah.
Because, like, I get wanting to have the inclusion of having a left-handed character, but make it so that you're ambidextrous so you can choose whichever side you want. Because I'm pretty sure that if somebody's left-handed and they would prefer to play as Chris, they're going to be right-handed the entire time.
Yeah. And I will say, I think with modern, like say with Resident Evil 4 Remake, they let you swap, which helps if say
they do.
It helps if, say, you're a lefty or righty, but it also helps just in normal game contexts. Like if you're aiming righty and you can't get a good shot, but if you swap to lefty, you can have a better shot, which I think in a normal sort of like tactical shooting situation, you would do that when you have to. So it gives you more control over the player as well. But has Shiva ever come back? Have they ever like done a thing with her?
No.
Okay.
No, she comes back, I think, for Mercenaries on 3DS, and that's it.
Okay. According to Wikipedia,
Josh, too.
Well, according to Wikipedia, she's in Dead by Daylight.
Oh, yeah, for the Wesker DLC or the whatever the fuck Nemesis DLC.
I'm okay.
Because they added them for some reason.
I don't know if I'll ever play Dead by Daylight. It doesn't...
That's something I don't care about.
I haven't heard a lot of good things about it, so... I'm sure for some people it's their game, but it doesn't look like my kind of game.
I just don't see the fun in it.
That's fair.
All. Like, you can't defend yourself and you're being hunted by somebody the entire time and your objective is to solve puzzles so you can escape. Like, no, that's not for me.
Yeah.
That's definitely not for me.
I'd maybe try it once, but I don't know if I'd stick with it.
Now, there's something that people hated a lot, and I get it. But I think these people are wrong. And it's that when you're aiming, you can't move. You're stationary.
Yeah.
I like that. I really like that.
This game?
It adds to the tension. It makes you have to decide and make decisions faster. It puts you on your feet. It doesn't give you the option of walking around and shooting and, taking your time and whatnot. No, it's like you have to either commit or fuck off.
Are you talking about RE5?
Yes, RE5.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I think, isn't it 6 when they first have it to where you can move while you're aiming? I don't know. It could
actually. I think the 3DS Revelations had it first and then 6, because Revelations came out before 6.
Okay, because it could just be me, but whenever I play, say, Resident Evil 2 Remake or 4 Remake or any of these games, I don't, when I aim, I don't ever think about I can move. I just sit there and plant my feet and just take the shots. Because I think, as you said, it forces you to sort of think on your toes and just be like, oh, I have to like plant my feet here and take the shots. And if you can't, then you can say 180-degree turn, run out of there and get a better vantage point. Like these games aren't high octane action games. Even when they're trying to be more action, they still force you to like make sort of those like survival horror commitments when it comes to like your character action. Like, are you going to use your ammo here, or are you going to take your, say, like in like a survival horror game, if you're holding like a melee weapon and you have to hit and they give you a real long wind up before you hit it, like you have to time that, and it's like, when are you going to do it? So it keeps, as you said, it keeps the horror tension up.
I feel like it works If anybody can hear that noise, it's my wife and her mom are watching Rogue One, and it's driving me insane. I can hear it over my headphones. Anyways, it makes it so that when you have enemies like with the Chainsaw Man or the fat guys that punch you,
guys, yeah.
You have to decide if you're going to turn around and run or if you're going to try to knock them down with a shotgun shell or shooting them in the knee or blinding them or something.
Yes.
So, and I like that.
I agree. And I think, say, like RE4 Remake adds an interesting dimension to that by letting you knife people when they get up close, doing the whole knife sacrificing thing, which I think is really cool. And I hope they keep it for the eventual RE5 Remake as well, which I guess we can talk about that. We can safely assume a Resident Evil 5 remake is going to happen. Not to spoil RE4 Remake or Separate Ways, not to spoil either of them, but the endings of both definitely hint at what Wesker is planning to do with Ouroboros. Like I don't think they specifically say Ouroboros, but
no, they don't.
If you know the series, you know where this is going, and if you don't know the series, you can tell that like something big's happening. Like Wesker is planning, like he's been the guy behind the scenes trying to put everything together. And yeah, they're going to remake 5. Like it feels like this is the lead up to it. But I think this time, with the remakes of 1 through 5, I think they will end them with 5. Like I don't see them remaking 6. I really don't, because I think even Capcom wants to forget 6 even happened. And then 7 and 8 are way too modern to get remade, at least for a very long time. So outside of 5, I mean, I would love a Code Veronica remake. I'm one of those people because I think it would fill that gap between 2 and 5 that would exist. Because I think if you go from 4 remake into 5 remake without that context, you're going to be like, well, why are we Chris now? Why are we in Africa? What's, the deal with like Shiva and everything? Because at the end of Resident Evil 2, you follow Leon into 4, but if you're interested in what's happening with Claire, you go into Code Veronica and follow her. And following her story into Code Veronica with Chris leads more into 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, they could do something in the 5 remake to make that connection. Like maybe have like the first couple chapters be your Code Veronica remake. To like establish Claire finding Chris and all that and why Chris has to go to Africa. They could do that maybe. I don't know. But I feel like the 5 remake is going to be a big project for them because they have to try to make it all work. Because as it stands... And they have
to make it a co-op too.
Yeah, they have to keep the co-op. Because as it stands now, as much as I'm okay with 5, I think the story and like where it sits in the lore and everything is a mess. Is an absolute mess, which is why Capcom are remaking all of them as we speak to try to clean all that lore up. And so far, I think they've done a very good job. But I don't know, I am concerned with how 5 is going to be. Are you worried about 5 remake?
Not at all. I feel so. 4 being my favorite, the original 4 being my favorite, I was upset when I played 4 remake and it was perfect. They took a perfect game and made it even better than it was supposed to be. And that was upsetting to me, that this company could do this to a game that I love so much and actually make me have conflicting feelings of if I like the original or this one more. Because remakes usually are dividing. Like Resident Evil 3 Remake is a very dividing game because they remove a lot of content. So them remaking this game to me would be a whatever. I mean, worst case scenario, they make the stages more cohesive, because a complaint that I've had since the first time I played this game is, why would you go to the village, right? Fight your way through an oil field, get to the swamp people, fight through another fucking oil field, go into a military base, and then you're in some fucking ancient African ruins doing solar panel puzzles. It doesn't feel cohesive. And if the remake would fix that, then, perfect. If it makes the game somehow worse, which I doubt it because the RE engine is fucking incredible. I don't see Resident Evil 5 getting fucked up, so I have no fear of it getting remade at all.
I think it depends on the team that decides to make it, because there are two different RE remake teams. There's the one that did RE2 and RE4, and you can tell it was the same team that did 2 and 4, because both of those are incredible, like front to back. And I think Resident Evil 2 Remake replaces the original 2, which some people may disagree with, but that's my opinion. And then
it does. It canonically does replace it, and 3 as well.
And the RE4 Remake, like, it is like the new canon version, and I think it's just as good as the original, in some ways better than the original. And it conflicts me as well. But in my heart, I think I still prefer the original. But if I were to say put them together, say like if I was going to do like my favorite game rankings, right, I would probably put 4, and I would probably put original 4 there and say, but also 4 Remake is really good too. So a 5 Remake, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I don't see why they wouldn't, because again, RE5 feels like that what it's all leading up to, so it makes sense for them to do. But if it's the RE2, RE4 remake team doing 5, then I would feel very comfortable with it, because they've shown, I mean, hell, with RE4, they showed they could remake anything. Like, they fucking proved it. But the team that did RE3 is a different team. And would they give RE5 to that team? I don't know, especially since RE3 Remake was divisive.
I don't see them getting RE5, because RE5 is such a favorite game between the fans.
And it's such a big game as well, in terms of where it sits
I would
in the
see
story.
them doing Code Veronica if they're going to do Code Veronica.
I really hope they do. Like, it's up in the air if that's even going to happen. I still would like it, because I think it would cement it in the canon.
Or they could put them to work on Revelations 3.
That's been a rumor. That's been a rumor for years, that they were working on a Revelations. That they were working on a Revelations 3. I think they were going to try to make it a Switch exclusive, but I think that's been canceled or something. Like
Revelations is a side story. It's not canon at all. Nothing about Revelations is canon.
But from what
it's still really fucking good.
Well, I think the rumors kind of got mixed up, because there was a rumor that they were doing a Revelations 3. And then there was also a rumor that Capcom was making a Resident Evil exclusively for the Switch. And I think people tried to say, oh, Revelations 3 is the one for Switch, but that was never confirmed or anything. But as far as I know, any project like that is either just like been like put on the shelf or canceled or whatever. So, and I feel like if Capcom were to do a Resident Evil just for the Switch, at this point, they'd probably just do it for the next Switch, which could be Revelations 3.
Yeah.
They might be working on a Revelations 3, which would be, say, a launch title for Switch 2.
There's also Resident Evil 9. What's happening with that? Because Ethan's story is done in 8. The Winters family is completely done in 8. So what's going to happen?
Well, don't tell me that. I haven't played them.
Well, I'm not telling you what happens. I'm just saying that we're not going to see them again.
Well, we're definitely
tied a bow on it.
I mean, we're definitely going to get a Resident Evil 9.
Yeah.
When did Village come out? Wasn't that last year or 2 years ago?
I think it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Village
is so good.
I don't think 9 would come out, say, 24. That might be a 25 game. Like, I imagine 24 might be, say, like a Code Veronica remake or a Revelations 3, right? Something kind of smaller. And then next year, they do, say, the 5 remake. And then the year after that, or no, they would do 9, and then the year after that, do the 5 remake. That's what I think they would do.
There's a rumor going around that Capcom has something that they haven't announced.
Yes.
That should be released by February.
That's what I've heard. And though I don't think it's a Resident Evil game.
I think it could be possible.
I have 2 possibilities, but go ahead.
So I think it could be a Code Veronica remake, because it's been quiet, and wasn't Resident Evil 4 remake like here's Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's released in like 6 months.
Yeah, they wouldn't do
And
that
it
for
came
4.
out.
Yeah, for 4 they wouldn't want to do that. And say for like a Resident Evil 9 or a 5 remake, they wouldn't give it a 4-month advertising cycle. They'd want to give it like a year.
But like I'm saying that for Code Veronica Remake, I think it could be a thing.
Yeah, I would like that.
I mean, because wasn't Resident Evil 4 released in February this year?
It was released this year. It's 4 Remake is still my game of the year.
And wasn't Resident Evil 2 Remake released in February of the year it came out?
2019.
And wasn't 3 released on February of the year it came out?
Well, like Resident Evil's been a yearly franchise for a while. And
wasn't
surprisingly,
Resident Evil 8 a February release as well?
I think so. It's surprising how Resident Evil has become a yearly franchise and it hasn't hurt the quality overall. Like the quality is still high. In fact, it might be higher than it's ever been, which is very impressive. Yeah, that RE engine does fucking wonders, man.
And having a team that knows how to work the engine, I think it's all that.
Oh yeah. I could see why you think it'd be a Resident Evil game. I mean, it could be, but I'm thinking if it is, it might be say like a Code Veronica would be a smaller remake. I don't think they would treat it as big, which is fair.
Right.
Or say maybe a Revelations 3 or something like that, like a smaller game. But
it could also be a Mega Man Legends collection that they haven't announced.
Hell no.
Oh, I would love that so much. That shit would make me so happy.
I saw one guy say, "Oh, what if it's X9?" and everybody laughed at him when he said that. Like, you fucking dumbass. No, I have 2 different franchise ideas that they might do. They're not Resident Evil. One of them could be Monster Hunter. We haven't had a new Monster Hunter in a while.
Since World on the Switch that then got ported to PlayStation and Xbox.
Well, there was Stories 2. I think that was Stories 2.
That was before.
Well, then there was Rise.
That was Rise. That's the one I mean, Rise.
Yeah, Rise. Yeah. And then there were Stories 2. I mean, it could be another. I mean, Monster Hunter's 20th anniversary is next year. So.
I mean, I don't doubt that we might see a Monster Hunter.
We'll see something Monster Hunter next year.
I doubt that it's going to be.
But another one that would make you happy, I think. DMC 6.
Yes.
I've heard that. I've heard that floating.
Highly doubt it. Highly doubt it.
Well, didn't 5 do well?
DMC is in a weird spot with Capcom because of the reboot. So when they announced 5, they announced it a long time before it came out, and they talked about it nonstop to get people hyped. And 5 came out, and it sold like fucking crazy, and it did amazing. And then they did another re-release for PS5, which was like the complete edition, and that did like crazy too. So I can see a Devil May Cry 6 happening, but I can't see it be like a 4-month, 6-month thing. I think that would be a whole year-long campaign of here's Devil May Cry 6.
It might be because maybe Capcom doesn't see DMC as one of their big marquee franchises. You know? Like it's not, say, Resident Evil. Like the big 3 for Capcom is Resident Evil, Street Fighter, and Monster Hunter. Those are their big 3. And then you have, say, Mega Man, Devil May Cry as sort of like the B tier, essentially. Not to discredit them, but I think that's how Capcom sees them. And then they'll do
Mega Man now is, because Mega Man now is just a collection machine.
Mega Man's a mascot.
We're getting Mega Man collections. We're just getting legacy collections nonstop.
He's a nostalgia mascot, basically. He's Pac-Man to them, you know?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure they'll do a Mega Man 12 at some point. I mean, and it could be Mega Man 12. Who the fuck knows, right? But
I want CX3. That's all I want. Maybe Mega Man Legends 3. I'll be happy with that too.
I doubt those will ever happen. I mean, I could see them
a Legends collection.
A Legends collection.
Just give me a Legends collection.
A Legends collection is possible, but I think they would have to put a little bit more work into that. But I think what Capcom said is that... I don't care if it's
just the 3 Legends games, the Legends 1, 2, and Misadventures of Tron Bonne. I'd be fine with just that.
Oh, yeah, that's all it would be.
I don't need anything else.
But I think why it may not be that is because Capcom said this is something that will sell millions and millions of copies. So, I mean, it could be, say, a Mega Man 12 and it sells 2 million copies. There you go. Millions and millions. You filled them up. I mean, but I don't see them.
Okay, so Battle Network. Battle Network is
that
so
sold
niche.
well. That sold 1 million plus.
And it's so, like, right? And it's such a niche game.
Oh, God, yeah.
I hated the first Mega Man Battle Network game, and I bought the fucking collection to play through the entire thing again.
I'm told they get better after 1.
Oh, yeah, no, they definitely do. 1 is just the dungeon design is atrocious.
Yeah. Oh, here. Capcom has a major unannounced title scheduled to arrive before March. But it's just like, I don't see them dropping, say, like, Resident Evil 9 or something, like, before that. No fucking way they would do that. Like, I think that would hurt more than it would help. So, I mean, it could...
Not for 9, but I can see Code Veronica being, like, fucking Video Game Awards exclusive world premiere.
Oh yeah,
and it's out in fucking February. So
I have a feeling it will be at the Game Awards. Like, it'll be announced there.
Oh, yeah.
It makes way too much sense. Somebody said it could be a new Phoenix Wright game. Keep dreaming, buddy. Keep dreaming. Because outside of that, like, what else would they do? Like, Street Fighter 6 is already out. If it's Super Street Fighter 6, that would be bullshit.
Right.
Because we're past that now. So, yeah, it could either be either a Code Veronica remake, could be DMC6, could be something Mega Man. Ooh, a Dino Crisis remake. That would be cool.
That would be very cool.
Like, put Dino Crisis in the RE remake engine.
Right.
Easy.
I think
a new Lost Planet.
If it's a Devil May Cry,
Lost Planet
if it's a
wouldn't sell
Devil May
millions,
Cry,
though.
it would be DMC 2, the sequel to the Ninja Theory Devil May Cry.
That would be awesome. But I'm gonna say,
so much fun.
But I'm gonna say Devil May Cry 6. That feels right to be like, oh, here it is, like a surprise announcement, and it's out in a couple months. I think that would be a new Devil May Cry would get a lot of people really fucking hype.
The more you talk about it, the more I hate you for it, because I think you might. It does make a lot of sense. Yeah. Because when 5 was coming out, they had the dude that made the song and the lady that sings it do a number in the Game Awards. Like, they sang the fucking Devil Trigger song. Mm-hmm. And then DMC 5 came out a little bit later. But I don't think it's 6. I don't think it's 6 at all.
Well, and think about it. FromSoft just returned to Armored Core, and that did really well. And FromSoft's really high. Think about it. Capcom's in a really good spot right now as well. And there might be some people who don't know that much about Devil May Cry, despite all 6 games being available. So, might not be a bad time to say, on that big stage, reintroduce people to Devil May Cry, you know? Wouldn't be a bad idea, even though it doesn't need to be reintroduced. But I think it's been enough time to where people would get really excited to see it again.
You know what? It's probably Power Stone 3.
Fuck off. Fuck off. That would make me so happy. Fuck off. I love Power Stone. God damn it.
I could just picture Aaron from Super Pot's living room, him watching it, and they're like Super Power Stone 3, and Aaron just explodes.
I think
Aaron matter all over the living room.
I think there would be a certain population of, like, online weirdos who would absolutely lose their minds at a Power Stone 3, but I don't know.
No, it's not gonna happen.
And like and while, like, say a new MVC would be really cool,
it's not going to happen. The last one did so badly that they're never going to get the Marvel license again.
Yeah, and with how Marvel is these days, I don't know how they would be able to license that. Yeah, like, the money would probably be absolutely ridiculous.
They're compartmentalizing their licenses in such a weird way.
Yeah,
so many studios hold so many weird licenses that it's not gonna. I don't think it's ever gonna happen again.
Like, I think even if is MVC2 available on modern platforms at all?
No. That could be it. A re-release of 2.
That would be an easy that's a layup. A lot of people would get excited.
Easy money.
I would say that's cool and not buy it. I've played a lot of MVC2. It is a really good game, but it's not one of those fighting games I go goo goo gaga over. But it is a very good game. In my experience, I liked X-Men versus Street Fighter more. That was my favorite of that series. I don't know why. I tend to like that one the most.
I only played UMVC 3, MVC 2, and a lot of Guilty Gear. So if it doesn't feel like Guilty Gear, it's not a good game. So
fair enough.
So that's why MVC makes sense to me, because it feels like a Guilty Gear game.
That would be cool, but I think it's a new Devil May Cry. They can't do a compilation because all 5 are available. They can't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say Devil May Cry 6. I got all
5 on the Steam Deck.
Yeah. I still have the collection of 1 and 4 sitting on my wish list, but I've yet to pull the trigger.
4 is not bad. It's just I feel like it's dated as fuck.
Yeah. Well, if I'm gonna play,
which is weird because 3 is older and it feels so much better to play than 4.
Because if I'm gonna play the Devil May Cry games, I'm gonna play them all. Might as well. So I know people. I know people don't like 2. I know.
I don't like 1.
You don't even like 1. Okay.
I don't like 1 or 2. No, like start at 3 and that's it.
Okay. Well, I'll see. I could probably emulate 3 on the PS2, and then do 4 and 5. And well, I have DMC back there, the Ninja Theory reboot. So
I think DMC 3 goes on sale a lot for the Switch for like $9, and I think
itself?
it has an online, online Bloody Palace where you and somebody else can take on the Bloody Palace. And I've been wanting to do that for a while.
Well, let me see if it's on Xbox real quick.
It's not the Xbox version; it's the Switch version only that does that.
Really? That's dumb.
Yeah, because they kind of made made it a special edition for Switch. So.
Oh yeah, the DMC HD collection in 4 is like $15 right now.
I mean, it's worth it for
$15. And then
$15.
Devil May Cry 5, and it includes a different playable character, is less than 10.
The Ultimate Edition of 5?
I guess so. But I'll probably
just buy like the Ultimate Xbox One Series X edition. Don't buy the fucking original DMC 5.
Ah, okay.
And if you're gonna buy DMC, the Ninja Theory,
I already have it. I already have that one.
The Ultimate Edition.
Well, I have the 360 version on disc.
No, that's not the version to play. That version is really bad.
Why? What's wrong with it?
So the Ultimate Edition, they optimized it so it runs a whole lot better, and they added a bunch of extra stuff too.
Okay.
So everybody, like, they tell you that if you're going to play that, you can play the 360 version, but if you actually want to have fun, play the Xbox One or PS4 version.
All right. Well, fair enough. I will keep those in mind, and they're Capcom games. They go on sale all the time. So even if I don't buy it right now, I'll get it later.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because I really need to clean out my backlog. I need to try.
Oh, dude. I finished Spider-Man 2, and I jumped back into Assassin's Creed. I'm almost done.
Yep.
And I cannot wait. I have so many fucking games to play, and not to mention the games I have to play for this podcast and other podcasts that I'm going to be a guest on. So,
yeah, I got
so much shit going on.
I got 2 podcast games I got to wrap up, and then 2 new releases that I want to play, Dead Space being one of them, and then Mario RPG. And then I was looking at a list of games that are announced for next year, trying to see, like, okay, which of these do I feel like I need to play day one? And I could only name like 4, which isn't bad. I'm going to try. Like, I know Like a Dragon 8 comes out in January. That's one of them, of course.
My God.
That's because that's going to be my entire February. So hopefully after that, I can just say fuck all this new shit and just clear the backlog out. That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try as best as I can.
Star Ocean when it comes out this week, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get to it for a while.
Yeah, I'm not going to buy it yet because I'm not going to get to it. I want to play it. It looks amazing, but
it does.
I know I'm not going to get to it, so I'm trying not to do that. At least with like Dead Space, it was Game Pass, and I'm going to play it anyways. So
it's such a short game. Like you'll play through it and not even realize that you finished it.
And I think the 2 games out after Control that I have to clean up, there's not much left of them, so I'll probably get to Dead Space pretty quick.
Yeah. So let's go back to Resident Evil so we can close this out because we're over an hour.
All right.
Let me go ahead and pull up my final thoughts on Resident Evil. So, if I were to play this game alone, it would be a 6.5 out of 10. Co-op, because it's such a game that's tailored to be played co-op, it's an 8.5 out of 10. So, the game feels like a disjointed mess of ideas for stages. There's no cohesion to them. The boss fights mostly suck, and there isn't much horror. Damn, I write like an idiot. But goddamn, if this isn't what TV shows think co-op games are. It's great as a co-op experience. As an alone experience, not so much. 8.5 out of 10 co-op, 6.5 out of 10 alone.
If I had played this game solo, I probably would have gave it like a 5. But co-oping it with you, I mean, I was originally going to do 6.5, but you were like, no, don't do that. So I bumped it to a 7. I think a 7 is a more fair assessment of it. In many ways, it's good, and it is memorable for sure. But it does have a lot of its issues. It's just a lot of little issues. Like, there's no real big problems with it. It's just a lot of weird design ideas, and yes, the disjointed nature of like this weird level chapter system, and losing a shit ton of the charm from Resident Evil 4 that makes that game still so memorable and replayable. But at its core, as a co-op experience, it's something I think everybody should play at least once. You know, get a buddy and play through it so you can kind of see what the deal is. But that's really the only way I'd recommend it, is as a co-op experience. As a solo experience, it might not be your cup of tea. And if that's the case, just play Original 4. You can probably find it for like $5, and you'll have a great time. Or just get 2 Remake. 2 Remake is a good starting point.
2 Remake is a great starting point. And if you hate yourself, go back to 1 Remake, but I don't recommend that.
Yeah. So. I'd say get 2. If you want to try 1 Remake, maybe play it later. Because I think the story in 1 is very important, especially if you care about the story. And you got to have one Resident Evil game with the weird, shitty tank controls. And if you have to have one, the one that's set in the mansion with all the blind corners makes perfect sense. Because if they tried to remake 1 again, like Resident Evil 2 Remake, I don't think it would be any fun.
They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
And if they did, it would suck.
Oh, there's also Zero. Resident Evil Zero.
Fuck Zero. Zero sucks. I hate that game. I hate that shitty fucking game. That is like the worst case scenario of like playing 5 solo. You know what I mean? Because you have to control 2 characters, and you can't intermingle items with each other. You have to do it through like the various crates, and just I think Burger likes Zero, but like for me, it felt too complicated. You know, it's like they had to think of some shitty gimmick to make the game like worthy of being a thing, because like the prelude to 1 story it's nice, but it doesn't really amount to anything. So, and I didn't care about any of the characters, so pass. Yeah. Play Revelations. Revelations is good.
Revelations is great. That's a good Resident Evil game to play.
I would agree.
All right, so that's it for this week's episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Thrak, for being on. Is there anything you want to plug before we end the episode?
Well, we are currently on hiatus because life is busy for me. But y'all should still listen to the 3DO podcast. It's just on a break right now, just because I have a lot of stuff going on, and doing a weekly podcast was becoming a little bit much for me. But I know when I think by like late November, early December, things will lighten up a bit. So I think we can get in a nice pile of new episodes. So stay tuned for that. Around Thanksgiving time, I'll be talking about Sonic Superstars with Dre from the Fine Time podcast, which I think that'll be an interesting episode. I know you don't know Dre, Chris, but I think you'd get along with him. I find him very similar to you in some ways. So, and then hopefully, I don't know when the episode's going to come up, but me and Rick are finally going to record part 1 of our Lost Odyssey review. We're recording that. We're recording that Halloween night, and I have no idea when it's actually coming up, like releasing. But that's been in the works for. That's been in the works for like a year.
He has really quick turnover on his episodes. Like he puts them out fast, so it might be like the next week after you record, he'll have the episode out.
Okay, so hopefully by the time y'all are listening to this, it should be out relatively soon, which will be fun. I look forward to that because this episode has been in the works for like at least a year. I think it was around this time last year we talked about doing it. But
Jesus Christ.
It's been a whole thing. I can finally get the albatross of this game off of my neck, which isn't to say anything bad about the game. I think it's an amazing game, but yeah, that's really everything that's kind of in the works. I know by the end of December, another podcast asked me to come on to do like a top games of the year thing. So I don't know when that's coming out, but you know, I'll be back on here at some point. You know, we're going to continue our co-op chronicles with, hell, I don't know what we're going to play next.
I think we should do Alien Hominid because it comes out this week.
Oh, there's a new Alien Hominid?
Yeah, Alien Hominid Invasion. I think we should bully Burger Champ into playing it too.
Okay. Let me see. Is it on? Okay, it is on Xbox.
It comes out the 1st, I think.
Okay.
So Wednesday.
Okay. Oh, it doesn't have a page on there yet. At least I don't think it does. Ooh, this looks nice. Is this a remake? Is this a remake of the original?
I think it's a sequel.
Oh, cool. It looks great.
A remaster or retelling or something. I'm not sure. It looks awesome.
It does.
And like, it looks like there's like different alien abilities. So,
okay,
I think that would be a fun game to have the three of us go through. So,
oh yeah, that'd probably be a quick one too.
Oh yeah, probably like two sittings maybe.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, and yeah, I pulled it up on Xbox and it doesn't have a price because I was curious how much this game costs.
So on Switch it's $20, on PlayStation it's $20. On Xbox it doesn't have a price yet. So
it'll probably be $20.
Yeah.
Let's see what it does it have a price on Steam? Doesn't even have a price on Steam. That's weird.
Yeah.
But it'll probably be 20, right. And sure, I'll spend $20 for an indie game.
Yeah. All right. So do you want to say goodbye to everyone, Thrak?
Bye-bye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.